Voices on 92.5 Enugu's Dream FM. Political Voices is a session of comments, interviews, and analysis of current political issues and how they affect and shape the world around you and I. Today is Thursday, 20th of May, 2021. My name is Jude Thomas Dawam. Today, we're analyzing the face-off between the Nigerian Labour Congress and Governor Nasiru El-Rufai. But before we go ahead, these are the few political headlines we are tracking. President Muhammadu Buhari has assured Nigerians of his government's commitment towards a free and fair elections, explaining that this administration will not interfere with future elections in Nigeria. The president gave the assurance during an interactive session with some Nigerians in Paris, France on Wednesday, as was contained in a statement by his spokesman, Garba Shehu, stating that the bedrock of democracy remains sustenance of the multi-party structure with trust from citizens. Buhari noted that results from elections since he assumed office had been a mixed bag, with the people's choice playing out, promising to keep the template that had brought more credibility to the electoral process. Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, has promised Nigerians that the federal government is working to bring the labor crisis rocking Kaduna State to a peaceful end. The minister said this while answering questions from State House correspondents in Abuja after Wednesday's Federal Executive Council meeting at the presidential villa, explaining that the federal government was disturbed about a certain turn of events in the state. He further assured that the Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, is already working to broker a truce between the opposing sides. The Assistant Inspector General of Police in charge of Zone 9 Headquarters, Umuahia, AIG Ene Okon, has tasked politicians and other stakeholders to discourage the wanton killing of security agencies and raising of police stations in the southeast zone. Okon made this known while interacting with stakeholders, including traditional rulers, the leadership of tricycle and Okada operators, youth organizations, and hotel associations in Ebonyi State, which took place at the International Conference Center, Abakaliki. The AIG further noted that the funds earmarked in rebuilding police stations would have served in the execution of other forms of developmental projects in the region, urging community leaders to synergize with security agencies towards addressing the spate of insecurity. Now, these are some of the political stories that we've been tracking. Now, do remember to follow and send us messages on our Facebook platform, that's 925 Dream FM, and Twitter is at Dream925 FM. You can also send us a WhatsApp message on this number, 0902 0020 925. Do stay with us. Welcome back. Is Political Voices on 92.5 Enugu's Dream FM. So Political Voices is live as always, and today we are analyzing the face-off between the Nigeria Labour Congress and Governor Nasiru El-Rufai. I'll quickly just introduce the guests in the studio with me today. From my left, I have Professor Nnamdi Okenwa of the Mass Communication Department, Coal City University, Enugu. Sir, good morning.
It's my pleasure being here again.
Thank you so much. And then we have as well Comrade Fidelis Ede, Executive Director, Service Accord Initiative, farmer, lawyer, and a former Labour leader. Sir, you're welcome.
My honor, thank you.
All right. Now, let me quickly give you a quick background of this topic that we're looking at today. The two major labor coalition, NLC and TUC, commenced a one-week total strike in Kaduna on Monday, leading to the shutdown of electricity, airports, schools, and so on in the state. Now, the workers are opposed to the plan of the state government to sack thousands of workers. The Kaduna State Governor, Nasiru El-Rufai, however, says there is no going back on the right-sizing, saying over 90% of the state's federal allocation is currently being spent on civil servants. Now, I'm directing this straight to, of course, Comrade Fidelis Ede. We're starting with you because you've been there. How did we get here?
Just being unthinking, being insensitive, not respecting standard and having not had any policy on good work in Nigeria. Even the way you read out the statement by the governor, you would think we are in a dictatorship. We ought to be operating under rule of law. It saddens one that at this stage of our development, those who would have looked on to as refined minds are the ones that are taking us to points where the uneducated were not even there. Jude, let us just try to analyze what El-Rufai is saying. El-Rufai is saying that the workforce in Kaduna, that they are commodities, commodities you can dispense with.
Anyhow.
And yet, by 1906, when we had the League of Nations, from where ILO emerged, Section 14 of the article said that labor is not a commodity. In 1960, when Nigeria joined ILO, among the conventions that have been ratified and domesticated are the 8 core convention, which includes collective bargaining. So what it means is that El-Rufai, despite the fact that our constitution protects decent work, you have laws on labor, trade dispute, and what he's saying is that as long as he is governor, that he is going to sack this number of people. That despite that, in spite of the laws that are existing, in spite of the legislature, in terms of the courts. So it is sad. But if you also look at the other angle, El-Rufai is also, by implication, saying, I want to save money. And mind you that those El-Rufai want to sack are not those who were recently employed. These are people entitled to gratuity and pension for life. So what money are you saying you will sack them and also deny them their entitlement? So for me, each time, and this is one of the people that people are also saying that may contest president or emerge as vice president. So you can see the future that is planned for Nigeria. And I think it is in the DNA of El-Rufai, because as FCT minister then, when I was president Civil Service Union and vice president of NLC, we also had the same scenario. But then, Nigeria was more stable, that you can't just run riots. And under Obasanjo, yes, Obasanjo embarked on reform. But again, Obasanjo also insisted through the Bureau for Public Service Reform that due process must be followed. So for me, it's not just about Kaduna. We are not even talking about the challenge that have bedeviled Kaduna over the years. If you talk about Boko Haram, we may not identify Kaduna as its hotspot, but we know that Kaduna has been the bedrock of violent crisis, killings, and what have you. So what El-Rufai is saying also is that despite what has happened to people in Kaduna, I don't care. That 7,000, do you know what it means to have?
My main fear is if I go back to a little history, the Minister of Labor has never, ever resolved any issue we kept in this country. So to tell you I'm optimistic is a lie. I am not expecting any wonderful thing. It's just talk without hitting the matter at the head. He won't tell the people involved, this is what is wrong. This is the way it should be done. He will go round and round in a very crafty way, because he's a very crafty man. And at the end of the day, the issue will be worsened. That's my own, that's what I think. But if El-Rufai comes, well, let me put it this way. If a different El-Rufai comes to the meeting, there will be a resolution. But if the kind of shouting, ranting El-Rufai comes to this meeting, it will be a shouting competition. At the end of it, nothing will be achieved. And when we move from this level to a nationwide issue, then the fire will be on. And I guess whether we'll have enough water to put out the fire that will burn all through the nation. But I guess leaving it alone, because this kind of thing, because for some time now we've been hearing from the presidency without hearing from the president. If at this point in time, we hear one sentence or two from the president, something will happen.
Okay. Now, comrade, you've been in this position some time ago. Now, if you were NLC today and El-Rufai comes in, what should we expect from the meeting? What do you think should come out of the meeting?
One is that El-Rufai will not attend the meeting. He will want to send, because you see, the facts are very clear. He will not attend. And if you take the position of the Minister of Railway, the Minister of Railway is already indicating that they are acting status quo antebellum to remain. That means that El-Rufai ought to suspend
what he did. Then Labour also
must cease from any act in response to what El-Rufai did. But look at it, El-Rufai being a smart guy, what El-Rufai will want to do is to buy time. We may find out that at the end of the day, he's likely to send a team, because definitely the ministry will call him and tell him the implication, of what he has stepped into. But most importantly is that El-Rufai team will come. That is where the problem will lie. Rather than commit themselves to whatever agreement that will be reached as parties equal in the meeting, they will want to report back to their principal. NLC will be there to take position. The team from Kaduna will want to report back to the Oga, who will not accept what they've done. But I think El-Rufai is in a quagmire. Because the quagmire is this: how can he proceed to retrench 7,000 workers against the law? So if I am NLC, now that El-Rufai is also fighting the federal government, this is the time the NLC must also go to NIC, the industrial courts, and restrain El-Rufai. Now, given that the Minister of Labour is likely to support that position, let the status quo remain. But let me also use this point to say that what the Minister of Labour is doing now is how the Minister of Labour ought to operate as an umpire. But you can now see, just like if it's private sector, that in this game, Ngige is likely to play the role of an umpire, which the ministry was created ab initio from the colonial time. In fact, what gave hand to it was first the the Cola strike of 1945, then the IVA value strike. And it was the IVA value strike that brought about the trade union law that said that the trade union in Nigeria are part of the law in Nigeria, and they must be approached based on extant laws, which El-Rufai is now violating. So because what I think NLC ought to do is to continue to heap the coal on him. He's attacking the federal government now. So I'm sure if they go to NLC, they are likely to get a restraining order. But like Prof said, if this were to be a case between federal government and Labour, the Minister of Labour will not be calling a meeting in this manner. They rather will take a position to condemn NLC and even criticize. I don't know if you get me. So you can now see why I said we've not been thinking. And again, there are institutions of government envisaged in the Constitution to be dependent. If you look at INEC, if you look at the Office of Attorney General of the Federation, if you look at the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation, if you now look at the Ministry of Labour, you will discover that the Ministry of Labour ought to operate as an umpire, because the Ministry of Labour ought not to see the federal government as custodian of authority, but as an employer. I don't know. They are now seeing El-Rufai as an employer. I don't know. That's why they are inviting him, not because he's Kaduna governor.
Interesting.
So these are issues that we have complications, but when it suits, when the situation is right,
we can talk more.
You
can understand it.
Exactly. Institutions now play the role they ought to play.
All right. So now we're going to quickly check out what we have on social media. And let's see what we've got on Facebook this morning. Maxwell Everestus Kenneth says, I don't think this topic is necessary to discuss here. We should be concerned more with the happenings in the Southeast, not should do. Because I think the reason we're discussing it is it affects almost every part of the Federation, because this is something that we need to learn from. A lot of governors might decide to take the same function if El-Rufai decides to win that. All right, he says this sacking by El-Rufai will not prevent the North voting him against the South if he declares interest in contesting for presidency in 2023, though his action is obnoxious to humanity, and that's why we're discussing it. Emmanuel Eze says, Alhaji Tanko, okay, he said, you see the kind of people we have as leaders. El-Rufai he disengaged some of his special advisors that he is spending much money on. It is obvious that the kind of people we have as politicians and leaders in Nigeria are all cannibals. Wow, that's a very strong word to use in human beings. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Dr.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Amadia.
Good morning.
Good morning, Amadia.
Good morning.
All right, so sorry about that. We can't really hear you, so please do go ahead and call us back. We have this one for Ngene Christian. It says, the demi-tyrant in Kaduna State, that's a very strong word to use. Be careful what you put up as words. And it says should be assured that his actions will soon boomerang on his head, because no single individual can stand the angle